how its strength bursts to the top of the glass. Taste it. The difference is almost frightening. Where am I?
A Change of Mind was first broadcast in December 1967. It was written by Roger Parks and directed by Patrick McGoohan under the pseudonym Joseph Surf. Surf being a in-joke from McGoohan. Script editor was George Markstein, and again it was produced by David Tomlin with help from McGoohan. The episode's original director was to be Roy Razzotti, but after a somewhat clandestine meeting over lunch, he was relieved of his duties. No doubt McGoohan didn't wish for another rancorous argument in front of the whole cast. Crew members were told the director's not very well and he won't be back after lunch.
Oh, the director's not very well and he won't be back after lunch. You know, would you arrange a car for him to go back to London? And doing just that. And going to see Roy Razzotti and saying, oh, you know, Patrick's asked me to lay on a car for you. And I do remember seeing a somewhat distraught young man.
The production of A Change of Mind marked the exit of George Markstein, whose role as script editor was crucial in shaping the series' early espionage-driven tone. His departure left McGoohan with near-total creative control, but frustratingly for Pat, this shift came just before the 3 filler episodes. McGoohan stated, "In some respects it's easier because you can't blame anybody else if you get it wrong." It does save a lot of discussion between the director and lead actor. One always has to be self-critical. This second phase of The Prisoner's production relied heavily on studio sets at MGM's Boreham Wood, rather than the Portmeirion outdoor scenes used extensively in earlier episodes. The use of studio sets was particularly evident here, and for those with eagle eyes, one can see the odd tourist car in the background. This episode was filmed directly after It's Your Funeral, and following the arguments and dark mood of that offering, A Change of Mind was far more productive and a happy experience. There's also a notable zest in McGoohan's acting. Roger Parks' first ever script brings this episode back into line with McGoohan's vision of The Prisoner. When Parks showed Markstein the script, he loved it and went on to state, "It's a cracking good story with a sinister theme, which years later has become more relevant. Ask any neurosurgeon." Roger Parks recalled that after his idea was accepted, he was invited to David Tomlin's office with Markstein in attendance and given copious amounts of whiskey. After a few glasses had been emptied, Markstein would happily shout out some new ideas for Parks to write down. Thematically, A Change of Mind is a scathing critique of authoritarian control, partly inspired by the Manchurian Candidate. McCarthyism's shadow looms large, with unmutual, akin, un-American, both labels weaponizing conformity to silent dissent. The episode's depiction of coerced confessions and self-criticism draws from Soviet and Chinese practices where individuals are forced to renounce their beliefs to survive. Show trials like those in Stalin's Russia scripted guilt to justify purges, a tactic the village mimics through its televised hearings. As number 6 in the show notes, that is why your behaviour is so important. A line highlighting the performative nature of control, a concept McGoohan explored throughout the series. In a later interview, McGoohan said, "Television can be a dangerous medium if it manipulates minds without questioning." We also see the usually dormant and docile villagers physically attack the ostracised number 6. This herd-like mentality was rife during the last few years, where people were attacked in the streets for daring not to conform with government propaganda. In a 1966 interview, McGoohan remarked, "The Prisoner is about the fight for freedom, the individual against the collective." Before we get into the minutiae of this episode, I have to give a mention to Eric Mivel, who was the music editor throughout most of the series. His role was pivotal in shaping the series' distinctive auditory atmosphere, which complemented its surreal and Kafkaesque narrative.
The first bit of music was recorded on the 19th of December in '66. That was for The Rival, and it was Bob Farnan's score for episode 1. And in it you can see the various aspects, A1, M1A, various takes that were chosen.
Myville's primary responsibility was to select and edit music to match the mood and timings of each scene, ensuring the soundtrack amplified the series' themes of paranoia, control, and rebellion. He worked extensively with the Chapel Recorded Music Library, choosing tracks that ranged from eerie and suspenseful to whimsical and ironic, reflecting the village's deceptive, idyllic facade.
The music editor then would measure exactly where the start and stop is required and go literally frame by frame where the music has to come.
Additionally, Myville oversaw the integration of original compositions by composers such as Albert Elms, Ron Grainer, Robert Farnan, and Wilfred Josephs, as well as notable commercial tracks such as The Beatles' All You Need Is Love. That particular song by The Beatles cost £48 and was one of the very few times the Beatles allowed their music for such a purpose. Myville, alongside Dierberg, created the Prisoner Music Bible, a detailed logbook cataloguing all music used in the series, including specially composed pieces and library tracks. This document was essential for maintaining consistency across episodes and ensuring the music aligned with the script and screen action. The Music Bible included notes on specific tracks, the placement, and occasional comments such as "Pat likes," indicating McGoohan's approval.
I think it was 53 take 3, the chase music, which I had to reuse and cut all over the place. So things like that. A bit of water splashed on there, obviously in the heat of the battle of putting the music down. And so it goes on.
I can't emphasise enough how The Prisoner's soundtrack was so original for the time and really helped highlight scenes throughout the series. Myville stated, "If you did your job to the utmost of your ability, it was always a good relationship and there were no problems whatsoever."
And I think that was a success of The Prisoner. We didn't have a lot of money, and with the money we had, we certainly made it look expensive, rich, vibrant, colourful, futuristic. And a lot of that was thanks to Pat's ideas and Jack Champagne, the art director.
A change of mind begins with the prisoner going through his morning keep fit ritual in his woodland self-made gym. As with the previous episode, we can clearly see the stand-in providing the gymnastic moves on the overhead pole. He's soon crept up on by two village heavies who are there for one reason, to manipulate Six into a fight. When Six says he prefers his privacy, one of the heavies says, "Now that could be taken as being antisocial." I personally find this expectation to be part of someone else's community most annoying. Society keeps preaching diversity is a strength. It isn't. And yet at the same time they want everyone to conform with their prescribed societal doctrine. I don't buy it. This altercation sets the stage for the episode's central conflict, the village's relentless campaign to break number 6's individuality. We see a good fight sequence where Six proves he's too agile for the pair, with one scuttling off and threatening Six with the committee. The next shot shows the back of McGoohan's stunt double, Frank Mayer, walking up towards the council chamber. The prisoner sits in the waiting room, and behind his head is a poster. This is reminiscent of Kitchener's pose from the World War I recruitment posters, or, if you like, Big Brother is watching you. Not so much your country, but your community needs you. The voice through the speaker is talking to number 93 and says, "You appear to be a reasonable man, but there is plenty of evidence showing your unwillingness to work for the community." There's that horrid word again. Six, who's filling in some kind of form, or at least looking at it, is sitting next to a woman who's crying into a hanky. The voice on the speaker states she appears to be in a permanent state of depression.
Number 6 is seriously in need of help, and we want to do something for 42. She appears to be in a permanent state of depression, always in tears.
The prisoner looks at her with sympathy and ever so slight annoyance. He looks over to the other villagers who are filling in the forms and taking all this seriously, as a voice on the speaker tells 93 to publicly acknowledge his shortcomings. It's here we see Michael Miller once again, his first appearance being in The General. We can easily surmise he's fallen off the straight and narrow, leading to him being re-educated by his masters. To add again, this public shaming is straight out of Mao's China, where dissidents disappeared only to reappear after having published essays of self-criticism and loathing. This public shaming has spread into what we thought were democratic countries, where people's lives and careers can be ruined in a day by the online hate mob, a mob often cajoled by the media through careful wordplay. Ironically, in the USA, McCarthy's purge to rid the US of communism gave many Americans the first taste of state persecution, resulting in something akin to the Salem witch trials. The voice through the speaker tells 83 what to say, and he's awkwardly and embarrassingly led through his self-flagellation. As he reaches his breaking point, the fellow villagers stand up and clap like seals.
Believe me. 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 Believe me.
Number 6, who remains totally devoid of interest, is told to enter the committee hall. This shot of McGoohan walking down the stairs has a wide-angle lens on the camera to make the room seem larger and further away than it is. The same lens was used in Dance of the Dead, when number 6 is running through the town hall rooms to the makeshift morgue. This wonderful studio set was also used for number 2's chamber, the observation room, and the psychiatrist scene in Arrival. It's wonderful what you can do with different lighting and a few different props. Number 6 slowly walks down into the vacuous room where 9 committee members are sitting, framed under the Masonic symbol. Bartlett Mullins, now there's a name, plays the part of number 18, and he asks 6 if he's completed the questionnaire regarding his confession. 6 happily rips up the paper and throws it like confetti onto the floor. The committee asks 6 to tell them about himself, but he casually asks them if they've already read his file. He's told only number 2 has that information, but do we believe that? A complaint has been made about him, and the committee now deplore his spirit of disharmony. 6, showing a nonchalant and jocular attitude, bats away the warnings as he spins around on his chair to eye the committee members one by one. Both the voice through the speaker and the head of the committee ask for 6's confession, and with the church bell ringing outside, these true bureaucrats find it only fitting to stop for a tea break.
I think we are all more than ready for a tea break. The group and medical reports will be considered in full.
They all collect their papers and head off for lunch. The butler enters the room, and I like this little standoff between the two as 6 pounces from his chair to escape the table barricade. The table was originally going to slide over on its own accord, but it was cheaper to include Angelo for this duty. As 6 walks back into the entrance room, number 42, played by Kathleen Bregg, is still crying. The loudspeaker is playing back 93's responses, but the prisoner, with an amused and defiant look on his face, is having none of it. He walks out clapping with a total disregard for the whole process. Here we see a long shot of McGoohan's stunt double, Frank Mayer, walking up the street. As Roger Parks hadn't been to Port Merion, he simply noted this street as Man Holding Ball Street, meaning the statue of Atlas. Number 6 encounters his first taste of being unmutual when his sarcastic greeting to a villager is ignored. We know something is afoot due to the slightly menacing soundtrack, courtesy of Mr. Myville. And if you watch the top of this shot, you'll see someone's white car drive past. The newspaper printer is just gracious enough to hand Six the morning news, but all the other villagers quickly make an exit, leaving Six to read the headlines. It reads number 6 is up for further investigation, along with 93's confession of being disharmonious. For anyone owning the Blu-ray edition, you can actually read the nonsense text across the paper. Looks like every other newspaper to me. In the village, I can't imagine anyone actually being number 6's friend, so would being ostracised be of great importance to him? Apart from his experiment in Checkmate, he probably has little idea of who's a fellow prisoner and who are the warders. How would one enter into conversation under those terms? You can't very well talk of escape, as that will go straight back to number 2. So with that overriding subject off the table, what are you left with? It's a nice day? Fancy a game of chess? Have you any holidays booked? If it were a choice between this small talk and doing one's own thing, I'd plump for the silence. However, in this prison, all inmates are expected to be part of the community and to join in with the frivolous goings-on. Therefore, outsiders, or lone wolves, are not tolerated. Yep, sounds like hell to me. On entering his home, Six is greeted by the portly number 2, who's busy helping himself to Six's biscuit ration. Number 2, portrayed by John Sharp, exudes an oily charm that masks his ruthless agenda. Sharp, a character actor known for roles in The Wicker Man and The Last of the Summer Wine, brings a bookish menace to number 2. Apart from biscuits, he has a fondness for quoting proverbs, delivered in a sinister, calming whisper. Sharp praised McGoohan's intensity. Quote, Patrick was a force of nature. You couldn't help but be swept up in his vision, even if it meant long days and a lot of tension. Sharp described the prisoner's set as unlike anything he'd done before, with Patrick pushing them to think about what freedom really means. I really enjoyed making it, and I enjoyed watching them too. The focused dialogue between the two tells the viewer that failure to cooperate will lead to no taxes, social credit, and no doubt no partner for a game of chess. I love the way number 2 politely nibbles at that biscuit and delivers his warnings to number 6. Get it down, ya. Although number 2 is keen to distance himself from the committee's findings, we know he's second in command and therefore he has final ruling. He states public enemies cannot be tolerated indefinitely. With almost glee in his bulbous eyes, he tells Six that he would be powerless to help should the committee find him unmutual. It's here we see number 86 as played by Angela Brown. She imbues number 86 with a clinical detachment, a precise diction hinting at a role as a medical enforcer. Roger Parks's first draft of A Change of Mind included a far more flirtatious dynamic for number 86. Parks crafted an initial script where number 86 was depicted as falling hard for number 6 and aggressively pursuing him romantically. This romantic subplot obviously clashed with McGoohan's strict no romance edict for the series, which prioritised cerebral and psychological themes over personal entanglements. As a result, McGoohan swiftly excised these flirtatious elements, ensuring number 86's role remains strictly professional. Angela Brown recalled her time on The Prisoner. Working on The Prisoner was exhilarating but exhausting. I fell in love with him, I just adored him, and he was so kind to me. Patrick had a very clear idea of what he wanted, and you had to be on your toes. In my episode, there was a lot of intensity because of the medical and psychological themes. Some people found him a bit fierce, because I think he was a perfectionist. He was only angry with people he felt weren't doing the job properly. God, I can relate to that. From the previous episode of It's Your Funeral with Annette Andre, this was a total turnaround. Number 86 reveals she once had the shame of being disharmonious. With a schoolmarm attitude, it's clear she's being cured. I like the line, "Have you time for tea?" followed by, "No, only your future." Again, when 86 spills out the line, "The hearings are televised. That is why your behaviour is so important. You stand before the whole community." we're reminded of totalitarian states who insidiously coerce the people into public confessions. I'm sorry to my family and comrades. I wasn't thinking right. I shouldn't be thinking at all. We cut to the student brigade's meeting in the woodland area, where 86 has taken 6 to listen in. As in the committee room, 6 is still clapping along as they argue the toss. The students complain that 6 is trying to undermine the girls' rehabilitation and accuse him of being a reactionary and a rebel. On his way out of the woods, he's greeted by medical staff who lead him to the hospital for their treatment. This shot is actually B footage from Arrival. The doctor is played by Czech actor George Pravda, and here are some stills from unused footage. Number 6 looks fed up as he's tested for reflexes, and this medical set also doubled as the computer room in It's Your Funeral. On his way out of the room, he's confronted with the Lobo men who've been subjected to the instant social conversion. His attention is drawn to the aversion therapy room, and here we see actor John Bailey strapped in the chair. John also played the chap in Arrival who was uttering gibberish while staring at the Mini Rover. This scene is rather chilling and must have resembled like something from the CIA MK Ultra program. 6 has a brief if somewhat stilted conversation with one of the Lobo men. His facial scar indicating he's been subjected to a terrible operation and robbed of his natural personality. A bit like Keir Starmer. The use of lobotomy as a plot device taps into fears of medical overreach, a metaphor for stripping away individuality. In the 1950s, lobotomies were performed on criminals, the mentally ill, and even political dissidents. In some regimes, reflecting a belief that nonconformity was a disease. The villager's fake lobotomy, paired with drugs, reveals a subtler horror, the power of suggestion to erode selfhood. This aligns with Cold War anxieties about brainwashing. The episode's allegorical depth invites us to question who defines normal and at what cost. Back in the committee room, number 18 reads 6 the charges, as the social group have found him unmutual. He's warned that if any further complaint is made about him, he will be put forward for a full medical treatment. This is known as instant social conversion. I do like the shot of 6 instantly being left alone, a nice touch. 6 spins around to see the buckler, once again waiting to let him out. Angelo has an expression on his face that could well be, now what are you gonna do? As 6 wanders up to the street, he hears Fenella Fielding's velvet tones, informing villagers that number 6 has been declared unmutual and that any further unsociable incidents should be reported. Inside his home, he's interrupted by the appeal subcommittee, the kind of busybodies one would cross a road to avoid, if only those doors slammed shut. As number 2 and the supervisor watch 6 in his home, Peter Swanick's character doesn't look too pleased. He almost has a look of distaste as number 2 chuckles away. Are we seeing a softening of the supervisor to 6's plight after himself being treated like a doormat and even sacked in a prior episode? That last shot is definitely one of disgust. As number 6 wanders through the woods and looks towards the open sea, we can only guess how long they've left him totally isolated. Personally, I think these shots of 6 looking all dejected aren't in standing with his character. We can forgive Roger Parks, a fledgling writer, for this, but a better idea would have been for 6 to be shown as actually happy he's being left alone. Happiness and lone wolves are not allowed, so the powers that be dragged 6 in for rehabilitation. Annoyed, their initial plan failed. Number 6 asks for a coffee in the open cafe area and is blanked by the waiter. The villagers quickly leave their seats and leave 6 the social pariah. Mind you, looking at that lot is best out of it. Back in his home, the Women's Guild are there to greet him and tell 6 the villagers are provoked by the presence of an unmutual. His reply is simply,
They are socially conscious citizens, and are provoked by the loathsome presence of an unmutual.
They are sheep.
Number 2 tells Six that they won't tolerate Six indefinitely, like a body's immune system attacking a foreign invader. The term unmutual, a chilling euphemism for nonconformity, evokes McCarthyism's labelling of dissenters as communists. Senator McCarthy's witch hunts branded Americans as unpatriotic, often without evidence, ruining lives through public shaming and blacklisting. Here the village mirrors this paranoia from both east and west, with number 6 ostracised for his individuality. John Sharp plays a good part here, as in a hushed yet simmering voice, states 6 will receive isolation of the frontal aggressive lobe of the brain. This leaves 6 in a decidedly agitated state. Used against him, psychology or temporary drugs are one thing, but permanent alteration of his brain is the ultimate concern. A one-way street, robbing 6 of his character or his very soul. Not far enough from the madding crowd, the villagers descend upon 6 like hawks, and he's beaten up and dragged to the hospital for his conversion. This disturbing and chaotic scene was well directed by McGoohan. 6 is given a shot to subdue and then wheeled into the operation room, all the while being watched on closed circuit by an expectant committee. McGoohan vociferously objected to this original scene when he first read the script. The scene was originally written to have 6 able to view the operation on his head via the TV monitor. This was of course to have been a lookalike's head, as they were fooling 6 that he was being given a lobotomy. McGoohan objected as he deemed an on-screen operation just too gruesome. Plus, he thought the village authorities wouldn't be able to find an exact lookalike to fool number 6. Roger Parks had to come up with a quick rewrite, so he phoned his brother, who was a psychiatrist at a hospital, and he asked him how he could get around the old-fashioned and bloody medical procedure. His brother came back with the idea of using a high-intensity ultrasonic beam. After the show being broadcast, 2 neurosurgeons contacted David Tomlin to complain about how the whole medical procedure had been misrepresented. Tomlin had to explain that the whole scene was a setup to fool number 6 into believing he'd just been given a lobotomy. Evidently, one can train for years to become a surgeon and still be thick as shit. Angela Brown also struggled to learn her detailed lines in time, as the whole scene was shot late in the day with no room for mistakes. As the staff are moving number 6 into place, we can see the horror on his face, albeit quelled by the drugs they've just forced him. And if you look at this technician, you'll see it's a bomb disposal engineer from hammer into anvil. This ordeal must have been horrific for the prisoner, as he's fully awake and seconds from losing his identity. A most cruel charade. When 6 wakes up, and not forgetting he's been forced antipsychotic drugs, he's now under the belief that he's been operated on. He fiddles with the plaster on his head, given to him as a temporary prop. Number 6 is led out and escorted by 86, but once again he's drawn to the aversion therapy room. We see a different poor soul being put through this torture. Outside, number 6 is welcomed by exuberant villagers, and in the original script, they were all to shout, "Welcome back." It's amazing how happy people can be once they know you've been lobotomized. And this shot of the Minimoke driving up the street was filmed by the 2nd unit in '67. Number 6 is led back into his home by 86 and is greeted by a thoroughly relaxed number 2. 86 starts making the tea and then leads 6 to the chair to relax. While she's finishing the drinks, 6 spies her under the table. The girl slips something into his tea. With his previous drugs wearing off, he's able to deduce something's wrong, but he hasn't yet painted the full picture. In these scenes here, none of the lines "shouting for the rug" nor "pouring away the tea" were in the original script. You can also see the Port Miriam pottery label on the underside of the cup. I think the instant and silent presence of number 2 was an excellent choice. The real reason for the whole charade is presented now, as number 2 tries to gently tease the reason for number 6's resignation. Quite a few lines here were cut or altered from the original script. I like the passive-aggressive to and fro, rather like the scenes from Once Upon a Time with Leo McGoohan. Slowly but surely coming around, 6 wades into the bathroom and finally takes off his plaster. He has of course been given a small scar, nothing that won't heal in full, and his actions are being observed by 2 and a technician. They watch as 6's aggression starts to manifest, a sign his previous antipsychotic drugs are fully wearing off. 2 is confident 6 is just confused. After all, he's just witnessed his own operation. After the girl's concern, 2 tells her to give 6 yet another dose, regardless of any adverse effects. Back for more tea making, 86 slips another pill into 6's drink, but now he's fully compos mentis. He knows the score and waits for an opportunity to exchange cups. It's here we see the girl ask 6 if he likes her dress. Now we know previous flirtatious lines were cut from the script. This solitary line swims in an empty pool, a disjointed question that seems plucked out of nowhere. And by the way, couldn't they have actually found her something nice to wear? 6 uses this break-in formality to make a fresh cup of tea. He spies her dropping another pill into his cup, so neatly asks her to grab the sugar. He then switches cups. I like Sharp's number 2 here, quite content and resigned that all's going to plan, then adding he'd also like some tea. I don't know why, it just amused me.
All charmingly domestic. I think I'd like some tea.
Where was I? Oh yeah.
Stupid woman!
2 takes of this line were filmed, with the alternate take being used in the trailer. The original line was, "That stupid 86, passionate fool, she'll ruin everything. Idiot woman, what has she started?" With the previous flirtatious cut dialogue, this line from number 2 wouldn't have made much sense. Number 6 greets Lobo Man, and playing along, he asks him if he feels different, only to be met with an uncontrolled laugh from this vacant fella. Looking at this as a literal story, it's quite sad to think that 46 was once an important civil servant, or a nuclear scientist. Number 6 strolls back into the woods towards his homemade gym, and with some doubt still lingering, he finds it difficult to muster up enough aggression to take on the pole or the punch bag. Soon enough he's once again joined by the 2 heavies, who now think they're in with a chance of taking the revenge. Things don't go exactly to plan for 6, who just needs a small jolt to bring him back to his natural state, is more than happy to beat them up for a second time. His original line here was to be, "I've found my punch." Further down in the woodland area, he finds a happy number 86 gathering flowers. With some humorous dialogue, 86 says she's higher than number 2. I bet she is in one respect, but number 6 subconsciously knows there's only one person higher than number 2. Number 2 and the supervisor are able to view some of this conversation, and again, 2 shows his growing dislike for the girl. The viewer can once again see the look of distaste on the supervisor's face as 2 stamps his authority over his observation. He puts out the call for the girl to report back, but before she has a chance to leave, 6 sits her down and puts her into a state of hypnosis by concentrating on the watch. By the way, number 6's watch for any horologists is a Tissot C-Star PR516. He manages to extract information from her regarding the fake operation and tells her when the bell tower strikes, well, we don't hear the rest, but it will soon become apparent. Number 2 receives a call stating 6 would like to share some information. So after dismissing the supervisor with an abrupt out, he walks towards the door and is confronted by number 6. Peter's character looks quite shocked as he finally gets to see his real master.
Right.
Number 2 is all sweetness and light, and he beckons Six into his sanctuary. As McGoohan clutches the penny farthing, did anyone work out the symbolism? He's taking number 2 for a ride. Number 6 informs too that if he were to speak out publicly, then he may influence other villagers to do the same. This is a rather good performance from McGoohan as he looks towards the sky for an answer, knowing 2 will finish his train of thought. Number 2, with an exuberance in his voice, uses the PA to tell the villagers number 6 wishes to thank all concerned for his social conversion. We again hear number 2's love of a good proverb, courtesy of Roger Parks. After some more B footage showing the happy campers, 2 and 6 head out to the balcony to address the crowd. The prisoner patronises number 2, and I love these quick shots of Sharp's coy and delighted face. Further mocking him, 6 quotes his own proverb. This was actually probably created by Roger Parks, and to his credit, it's something we've all heard through the years.
The butcher with the sharpest knife has the warmest heart.
Number 6 ekes out his speech, just long enough for the bell to toll. It tolls for number 2, as 86 jumps out from the crowd to shout a pre-arranged number 2 is unmutual. John Sharp's character has to make a quick exit, and is chased up the street by the madding crowd, all eager to bring about 2's social conversion. This last scene shows the fickle nature of the general public, easy to sway, easy to anger, and easy to fool. This mirrors the fickle nature of collective judgment, a nod to McCarthyism's mob mentality and show trials. Although 6 hasn't escaped the village, he's once again beaten the chain of command, the stepping stone to the real master, number 1. As we reflect on a change of mind, in today's society, its warnings feel eerily prescient. Modern parallels abound. Social media pylons mimic the villager's mob, labelling dissenters as problematic with McCarthyite zeal. Government surveillance, from data tracking to facial recognition, echoes the villagers' omnipresent cameras. Coerced conformity persists in cancel culture, an ideological litmus test, where public shaming enforces orthodoxy. Yet the episode's optimism lies in number 6's triumph, not through violence, but through wit and resilience. His refusal to confess, even under duress, is a beacon for our time. As free individuals, we can negate oppressive overreach by embracing critical thinking, as number 6 does when he questions the lobotomy's reality. We can resist groupthink by valuing diverse perspectives, fostering dialogue over dogma. Technology, while a tool of control, also empowers us. Whistleblowers expose abuses, and decentralized platforms amplify unheard voices. By safeguarding our inner autonomy, we defy the villager's mantra. McGoohan's words in a 1967 press conference ring true. If you don't stand up for your individuality, you're lost. Let's stand then, as number 6 does, unmutual and unbroken. In a world that often demands conformity, a change of mind reminds us that freedom begins in the mind. By questioning authority, rejecting coerced narratives, and celebrating our unique nature, we can build a future where no one is a number. If you find these observations as mere ramblings of a paranoid mind, and you casually acquiesce to more and more government control, well, perhaps a change of mind is in order.
Who better? See you soon.
Sure.